The first time I ever saw Maya Chen hesitate, her hand was already on the passenger door handle of my car, her seatbelt was unbuckled, and the dome light had just flickered off after I killed the engine. Outside her apartment building, the street was empty except for a cat sitting under a street lamp like it was waiting for a bus. She turned her head, looked at the door like it had personally offended her, and said it so quietly I almost missed it. I didn't want the night to end yet. I thought that would be the most surprising thing I'd hear all night. I was wrong. The most surprising thing came 47 minutes later, when her roommate opened their apartment door in fuzzy slippers, pointed a wooden spoon at my chest and said, "So you're him." Finally. "Maya, you didn't tell me you were bringing home the guy from the sticky notes." And that was the exact moment I realized my quiet little office crush was not, in fact, quiet at all. My name is Liam Cross. I was 29 years old, and at the time I worked as a senior copywriter for a mid-sized marketing agency in Chicago called Brightline Creative. We made slogans for granola bars, taglines for insurance companies, and once, memorably, a full campaign for a cat litter brand that got nominated for an award I still can't explain at parties. Maya was one of our graphic designers. She had this way of walking through the open-plan office with a tablet tucked under her arm, and a pencil stuck through her messy black bun, like it had grown there naturally. She made everyone else look like they'd gotten dressed in a panic, even when we had. She was 27, dry-witted, relentlessly competent, and the only person in the building who could make me laugh during a 4 p.m. budget meeting without getting me fired. I had rules about people like Maya. After a relationship that ended 2 years earlier with my ex telling me I was emotionally reliable but romantically uninspired, a sentence I have never fully recovered from, I became the kind of man who kept his feelings in a filing cabinet labeled "Do Not Open." I paid my bills on time, I made polite small talk at happy hours, and I absolutely did not develop feelings for coworkers. Maya made that impossible. She'd steal the last blueberry scone from the break room and leave half of it on my desk with a sticky note that said, "You look tired. Carbohydrates are love." She'd lean over my monitor to point at a font choice and smell faintly like spearmint and pencil shavings. She remembered the anniversary of my dog's death before I mentioned it. She knew I hated cilantro but liked lime, which she called a textural contradiction. We were coworkers, friendly, safe. That was the story I told myself, until the Thursday night our company's biggest client decided to rewrite an entire campaign 36 hours before the pitch. The client was a boutique coffee chain called Sparrow, and our presentation was scheduled for Friday afternoon. At 5 p.m. on Thursday, their marketing director sent a rambling email that basically said, "We've decided we don't want modern anymore. We want timeless, but still modern, but also nostalgic, but forward-looking. Anyway, can't wait to see what you come up with." Greg, our creative director, gathered the team in the conference room with the expression of a man who had seen things. Maya and I were the last two left in the room after everyone else grabbed their laptops and scattered toward the exits. We looked at each other. "Timeless but modern," I said. "So a sundial with Bluetooth." "Nostalgic but forward-looking," she said. "A baby boomer in a jetpack." We laughed. And then we got to work. For the next 6 hours, the office emptied around us. The cleaning crew came and went. The motion sensor lights in the hallway kept turning off, and one of us would wave an arm to wake them back up. By 11 p.m., the building was silent except for the hum of the evac and the occasional sound of Maya muttering at her tablet. I rewrote the entire brand voice document from scratch. She rebuilt the visual concept around old Polaroid frames and warm amber tones that somehow made a coffee cup look like a memory you hadn't had yet. At 11:40, she pushed her chair back and spun the tablet around. "There," she said. "Nostalgic but forward-looking. It's a Polaroid, but the image is moving, like a memory that's still happening." I stared at it. "Maya, what? That's the best thing you've ever done." Her cheeks went faintly pink. "You're biased. You've been inhaling cold brew since 6 p.m. "I'm not biased, I'm right." She smiled, and something in my chest tugged, warm and inconvenient. At midnight, we finally closed our laptops. The office was freezing. Maya had wrapped her cardigan around her shoulders twice, which didn't look physically possible, but she'd managed it. Outside the windows, the Chicago skyline glittered against a black sky, and rain had started streaking down the glass in slow lines. "My bus stopped running an hour ago," she said, scrolling through her phone. "I'll call a rideshare, or I can drive you." She looked up. Her eyes were tired but sharp, the way they always were when she was deciding whether to accept help. I had learned, over the past year, that Maya Chen had a complicated relationship with being taken care of. She was the kind of person who would carry 4 boxes at once rather than ask for a second trip. "You don't have to," she said. "I know." I held her gaze. "But I'm offering." A beat. Then she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and nodded. "Okay, but you have to promise not to judge my music taste." "What music taste?" "My car is in the shop. You're driving yours. I'm connecting to your Bluetooth." I grabbed my keys. "Absolutely not. Driver picks the music." She stood and slung her bag over her shoulder. "Then I pick the snacks." "We don't have snacks. We'll get snacks." That was the moment the night stopped being about a client pitch and started being about something else entirely. We found a 24-hour gas station with fluorescent lights that made us both look vaguely ill. Maya bought 2 bags of sour gummy worms, a bag of pretzels, and a bottled iced tea that she announced was for morale. I bought black coffee that had probably been sitting since 9 p.m., and a pack of gum I didn't need. Back in the car, the rain had picked up. My windshield wipers beat a steady rhythm as I pulled onto Lakeshore Drive. The city was quiet in the way cities only get after midnight. Streetlights reflecting off wet pavement, the occasional pair of headlights, and the lake, a dark presence to the east. Maya plugged her phone into my car's USB port without asking, which felt like a level of familiarity I hadn't consciously granted but apparently had. Soft indie folk filled the speakers. "See," she said, "this is tasteful. This is sad girl autumn. It's June. Sad girl summer then. Even sadder. Humidity ruins your hair." She laughed, and the sound filled the car. I realized I wanted to hear it again. We talked about the pitch for a while, replaying moments, critiquing Greg's nervous energy. Then, slowly, the conversation shifted. "You know," she said, looking out the passenger window at the rain, "I was terrified when I started at Brightline. I thought everyone would think I was just the junior designer who got lucky. You're not junior anymore. I know. The fear doesn't really go away though, does it? You just get better at ignoring it." I glanced at her. Her reflection was soft in the window glass, streetlights sliding over her face in gold stripes. "I still have nightmares about my first campaign," I said. "The one for the shoe insoles?" The tagline was, "Step into comfort." I woke up in a cold sweat for weeks. She turned toward me, grinning. "That's not even bad. It's aggressively mediocre. I'd rather be bad. At least bad is interesting." She was quiet for a second. Then, "You're not mediocre, Liam." The way she said it made my hands tighten on the steering wheel. Not a compliment tossed over her shoulder. Something deliberate, something she'd been holding. "Thanks," I said. "I mean it. You're the best writer in that office. You make Greg look like he learned English from a cereal box." I laughed, but my heart was doing something unreasonable. "Greg has an MBA." "Exactly." We drove in comfortable silence for a minute. Then Maya shifted in her seat and pointed at my cup holder. "Is that a Pine Tree air freshener?" "In 2024? It's classic. It smells like a rental car. You connected to my Bluetooth and you're judging my air freshener." She picked it up, examined it, and put it back. "I'm not judging. I'm cataloging." "Cataloging what?" "Facts about you. For the file." There it was. The phrase that tilted the night. I kept my eyes on the road. "You have a file on me?" She didn't answer right away, and when I glanced over, she was looking out the window again, but her mouth was curved in a small, private smile. "Maybe," she said. "What's in it?" "That's classified." "Maya," she sighed dramatically. "Fine. You drink black coffee, but you hate dark roast, which is contradictory. You have a post-it note on your monitor that says, 'Don't be clever, be clear.' You pace when you're on the phone. You hum when you're nervous, which is often during client calls. And you keep a spare umbrella in your bottom drawer, but you never use it, which I assume means you like the rain or you forgot it's there." I didn't say anything for a full 5 seconds. My chest felt too full. "You noticed all that." "I notice a lot of things," she said quietly. It's kind of my job. That's not your job. That's something else. She looked at me then, and in the dim glow of the dashboard lights, her expression was more open than I'd ever seen it, almost nervous. Maya Chen, who once told a client his brand strategy was creatively bankrupt with a straight face, looked nervous. "Yeah," she said, "it is." The GPS announced we were 2 blocks from her apartment. Neither of us spoke. I turned onto her street and parked in front of a red brick building with a wrought iron gate and a single light on in a 3rd-floor window. I turned off the engine. The music stopped. Rain drummed on the roof. Maya unbuckled her seatbelt. She didn't open the door. Her hand rested on the handle, and then she just sat there, staring at the door like she was trying to will it to disappear. The silence stretched. "Maya?" She let out a breath. I didn't want the night to end yet. The words landed gently, like a stone dropped into still water. I turned in my seat to face her. Her profile was half lit by the street lamp outside, her fingers still curled around the door handle, her knuckles pale. "You don't have to go inside," I said. She turned her head. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we can keep driving. Or find a diner. Or sit here and argue about my air freshener. Whatever makes the night not end." She stared at me for a beat, and then a smile broke across her face. It wasn't her office smile or her client smile. It was the smile I'd only caught glimpses of, the one she hid behind sarcasm and competence. "There's a 24-hour diner on Belmont," she said. "Best hash browns in the city. Greasy enough to take 5 years off your life." That's a ringing endorsement. I'm a woman of taste. I started the car. The engine hummed back to life, and the sad indie folk resumed at low volume. Maya settled back into her seat, and this time her hand drifted to the center console, palm up, like she was leaving an option open. I didn't take it, not yet, but I noticed. The diner was called Stella's, and it looked like it had been built in 1974 and never updated. The booths were cracked red vinyl, the menus were laminated and sticky, and the waitress, a woman in her 60s named Dottie, called us Han and refilled our coffee before we asked. We slid into a booth by the window. Rain streaked the glass. The only other customers were a man reading a paperback and a couple arguing quietly in the corner. Maya ordered hash browns and a chocolate shake. I ordered a burger I didn't need. "Midnight burger?" I said. "Essential creative fuel. It's 12:45 a.m. Midnight is a state of mind." She laughed, and then leaned her elbows on the table and looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Can I ask you something?" "You're going to anyway. Why are you always so careful with me?" The question landed somewhere between my ribs. "What do you mean?" "At work," she said. "You're friendly with everyone. But with me, it's like you're holding something back. You'll make a joke and then pull away. You'll help me with a project, but you never linger. I notice everything, remember?" I looked down at my coffee cup. The steam curled up in thin ribbons. "I have rules," I said. "Rules. About coworkers." She didn't look surprised. She looked like she'd already figured that out and was waiting for me to say it. "Because of the ex?" she asked. I looked up sharply. "How do you know about that?" "You mentioned her once. At the holiday party. You said your ex called you safe but not exciting, and then you laughed like it was a joke, but it wasn't. I remembered that moment. I'd had 2 eggnogs and I'd thought I'd been subtle." "Apparently not. She wasn't trying to be cruel," I said. "She was just honest. And ever since then, I've been a little afraid that my default setting is boring." Maya's expression softened. She reached across the table and put her hand over mine. It was warm from her coffee mug. "Liam," she said, "you're not boring. You're steady. There's a difference. My ex didn't think so. Your ex was wrong." She squeezed my hand once. "Steady is rare. Steady is someone who stays until midnight to fix a pitch that isn't his job. Steady is someone who drives a coworker home in the rain and doesn't make it weird. Steady is the man who remembered I was allergic to almonds and checked the granola bar label before he handed it to me last month. I saw you do it." I had done that. I didn't think she'd noticed. "You're doing it again," I said, cataloging. "Yes, for the file. And the file is growing." I laughed, but my throat was tight. I turned my hand over beneath hers so our fingers could lace together. We stayed like that, Two people in a diner booth at 1 a.m., holding hands over a laminated menu. The moment felt fragile, like a soap bubble, and I was terrified of breaking it. Then the bell over the diner door jingled, and someone gasped. "Oh my God. Maya?" Maya's hand tightened around mine. I looked up. A woman in a raincoat and pajama pants was standing in the doorway, dripping onto the welcome mat, holding a paper bag that smelled strongly of egg rolls. Her eyes went from Maya's face to our joined hands to my face. Her mouth fell open. "So you're him," she said. "Finally." Maya closed her eyes. "Ellie. No, Ellie." The roommate, I realized, the one from the apartment, grinned and walked straight toward our booth. She was holding the wooden spoon I'd see later, inexplicably tucked into her raincoat pocket like a wand. She pointed it at me. "You," she said, "are the Post-it note guy." I looked at Maya. She was bright red, from her collarbones to her hairline. "Post-it note guy?" I repeated. Ellie dropped her bag of egg rolls on the table like she owned the place. Maya has a Post-it note on her bedroom mirror. It says, "Liam Cross is not as oblivious as he looks. He's just careful. There's a difference. She wrote it 6 months ago. I have photographic evidence." "Ellie," Maya said, her voice strangled, "I will end you." "What?" "It's true. I've been waiting for this. I came out for emergency egg rolls because I couldn't sleep, and the universe delivered." She slid into the booth next to Maya, uninvited but completely unashamed. "So Liam, tell me everything. What are your intentions? Do you like dogs?" Maya likes dogs. She's terrified of geese, though. Important distinction. "Ellie, please go home. Not until I get answers." I looked at Maya, who had buried her face in her hands. I looked at Ellie, who was radiating chaotic ant energy, and then I started laughing. It was the kind of laugh that came from somewhere deep, the kind that loosened something I'd been holding tight for years. "I like dogs," I said. "I don't have a strong opinion on geese. And my intentions are, I'm still figuring them out. But I drove her here at midnight because I didn't want to say goodbye either." Ellie's grin softened into something genuine. She glanced at Maya, whose face was still hidden. "Oh, honey," Ellie said, quieter now. "Look at me." Maya lifted her head. Her eyes were wet at the corners, but she was smiling. "You wrote a note about me," I said. "It was a private note. On your mirror. I needed a daily reminder not to be a coward. The honesty of it stripped every clever response right out of me." I slid out of the booth, walked around to her side, and crouched down so we were at eye level. "You're not a coward," I said. "You're the bravest person I know. You just hide it behind graphic design and sour gummy worms." She laughed, a watery sound. "That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me." "Then people haven't been saying enough nice things." Ellie sniffled loudly. "I'm going to cry. I'm emotionally compromised. I'm leaving." She grabbed her egg rolls and stood up. "But Liam, if you hurt her, I know where you work. Literally. I've visited the office. I brought cupcakes for Maya's birthday. I know the floor plan." "Noted," I said. "Good." She pointed the wooden spoon at me one last time, then swept out of the diner with the dignity of a woman who had just accomplished exactly what she came for. The bell jingled. Silence returned. Maya and I were alone again, except for Dottie, who was studiously wiping the counter and pretending not to exist. I was still crouched beside the booth. Maya reached out and touched my jaw. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi. I'm sorry about her. Don't be. She's the reason I know you think I'm not oblivious." "You're very much not oblivious right now." "No," I said. "I'm not." Her thumb traced the edge of my jaw. Her eyes flicked to my mouth. The diner hummed around us. The refrigerator case, the rain, the distant sizzle of the grill. "Can I kiss you?" I asked. "You're asking?" "I'm being careful." Her smile trembled. "Don't be careful. Not with me." So I kissed her. It was gentle and sweet, and tasted like chocolate shake and coffee. Her hand slid into my hair, and my hand found the curve of her waist, and for a long moment, the world outside the diner simply stopped existing. When we pulled apart, she rested her forehead against mine. "I've been wanting to do that for months," she admitted. "Me too. You hit it better. I had practice. I've been hiding feelings since middle school." She laughed, and then kissed me again. quicker this time, like she was proving to herself she could. Dottie, bless her, refilled our coffee without a word and left the check face down. By Sunday evening, my phone had become a lifeline. I spent the entire day doing laundry and thinking about the diner. Maya had texted me Saturday morning. Ellie has told 3 people you're the post-it guy. You're famous, I replied. As long as the note stays on the mirror, she sent back. It's laminated now. Ellie did it without asking. And then, around 10 p.m., the dangerous text. Maya, I keep thinking about the car and the diner and the part where you asked permission to kiss me. I stared at my phone, typed, deleted, typed again. Me. I keep thinking about all of it, especially the part where you said steady was a good thing. Maya. It is. I meant it. Me. Monday is going to be weird, isn't it? Maya. Only if we let it. I don't want to pretend the diner didn't happen. Me neither. Monday arrived wearing fluorescent lights and the Sparrow pitch deck. I walked into Brightline at 8:15 a.m., carrying 2 cups of coffee, and found Maya already at her desk, her tablet propped up, her hair in its usual messy bun. She looked up when I set the coffee beside her keyboard. Is this a bribe? She asked. It's a gesture. What kind of gesture? The kind that says I'm not pretending. She picked up the cup, and her fingers brushed mine deliberately. Neither of us moved quickly. Good, she said softly. Neither am I. The pitch was at 2 p.m., and it went brilliantly. Maya's Polaroid concept got an actual round of applause. My tagline, Sparrow, the taste of coming home, made the client's marketing director tear up, which was either a good sign or she was dehydrated. Greg, still riding the high of not having lost the account, took the whole team out for drinks. Maya and I sat across from each other at a crowded table, but under the booth, her ankle rested against mine. The whole time. We disclosed the relationship to HR the next morning. The form was beige. The questions were invasive. The HR representative, a woman named Carol, smiled knowingly and said, "You're the 3rd couple this year. Marketing is basically a dating service with health insurance." Maya signed her name with a flourish. I added mine underneath. That could have been the end of the complications. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, Maya's phone rang while we were eating takeout at her apartment. I saw the name before she turned it away. Jonah. Her ex. She stared at the screen, and something flickered across her face. Not longing, but the exhaustion of an old argument that had never really ended. He does this sometimes, she said. Calls to check in. It's not about checking in. It's about seeing if I'll still pick up. I put my chopsticks down. Do you want to talk to him? No. She looked at me. But I need you to trust me when I say that. I thought about the note on her mirror, about the diner, about the way she'd held my hand on a sticky vinyl booth at 1 a.m. I do trust you, I said. She declined the call. Then she blocked his number. Then she leaned over and kissed me. And Ellie, walking through the living room with a bowl of cereal, said, "Finally, you two are functional. It's exhausting being the only emotionally intelligent person in this apartment." 6 months later, the Polaroid campaign won a regional award. Maya and I attended the ceremony together, and when they called her name, I watched her walk to the stage in a dark green dress that made my chest ache. She thanked her team, her creative director, and then, with a glance toward the back of the room, the copywriter who taught me that steady isn't boring. "It's the whole point." Greg leaned over and whispered, "Is she talking about you?" "Yeah," I said, "she is." A year after the late shift, I moved into the apartment with the red brick facade and the wrought iron gate. Ellie claimed credit. Admiral, Maya's enormous gray cat, claimed my side of the bed and judged my shoes daily. I proposed on a Thursday night, in the same diner booth, with a ring box hidden inside a bag of sour gummy worms, because Maya had once said, "Romance should always include snacks." She said yes before I finished the sentence. Ellie cried. Dottie brought us free pie, and when we got home that night, Maya pinned a new post-it note to the mirror. It said, "He's not careful anymore, he's home." Sometimes love doesn't arrive as thunder. Sometimes it arrives as a late shift, a rainy drive, a diner at 1 a.m., and a roommate in pajama pants who blurts out the secret you've been keeping for months. Sometimes it's a woman brave enough to look at your car door and say she doesn't want the night to end. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the night doesn't end. It just becomes the rest of your life. Have you ever had a moment where someone else, a roommate, a friend, a family member, knew about your crush before you did? Did they accidentally spill the secret? Tell me your story in the comments. If you liked this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next.